And here we go.
It's gonna be fun.
Oh, this is gonna be the coolest moment of all time. Oh my word, what's it gonna be for next week?
Okay, I've got one.
What's it gonna be for next week, dude?
Let's have a look.
Oh wow, that is going to be some...
Screw it.
Hey dudes and dudettes, what is going on? Jonny Middleton. I'm joined once again by my awesome hard rocking amigo,
Travis Ward.
and welcome to episode 4 of our brand new Classics and Crypts opening vaults and review series on YouTube. And before we start, I think it's only right that we give a very nice little shout out to a very fine individual who commented on our videos the other day, namely our good friend Jimmy Parkin, dude.
Yeah, that guy.
You know him well?
No.
He's a legend. I haven't seen him for a while, but I appreciate your comments, Jimmy. All the best, my friend. Glad you're enjoying our content, and we hope that you'll be here for the long run. Because we welcome as many fans as we can, don't we, dude?
As many as we can.
And as last week when we pulled once again another rabbit out of the hat, just keep saying it's no longer a metaphor.
Indeed.
It was
my
now that
reaction was pretty interesting last week, but I must say my action is like flip-turned.
I was very happy to turn on some new music, dude.
Indeed, and
I'm sure you do the same for me.
Indeed, we'll see what comes up. This album can be seen as like the epitome of prog rock.
We can make a lot of parallels to the previous release that we've reviewed, dude. But we'll get into this and
a very prophetic album.
A very pathetic album.
Prophetic.
That was totally last week, my brother.
But it is once more a prophetic album for its genre. A very creative masterpiece.
I still don't know what prophetic actually means, dude.
Like a prophet.
It sounds like somebody who can't like pronounce like a letter.
Like a prophet.
Make profit.
No, a prophet because it's got a PH.
Oh, someone that preaches.
Right. And so the album we shall be doing today is King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King.
And there's actually a story behind how one of us managed to obtain this album, because Travito actually bought the album from Amazon and I actually bought it from eBay. And it seems like the Amazon won that particular race.
Indeed.
I'm still waiting for my copy and he got his on.
Indeed, I got it. Oh, I got it on Tuesday. I got it way shorter, like in length of the delivery that it should have been. So
like you said, did you say it was like 3 to 5 days?
it was
like
a 3 to 5 delivery and it came in 1.5 days from when I ordered it.
Amazon just rocks people.
Okay,
And
so
what do you say to like the artwork to In the Court of Crimson King by King Crimson? It's sort of like it's as memorable as the artwork to the Velvet Underground's Velvet Underground and Nico. Would you say a lot of people recognise the album but they're not quite sure who the artist of the album is?
no.
Maybe.
I'd say that this album would be I'd say that this album would stand out to people if they ever saw it, but because Velvet Underground are more known than King Crimson to the average person, I'd say.
But it's strange because like even though King Crimson don't have much these don't have much radio play, much commercial exposure. Like they do have like quite a large following of
especially for people
dedicated
fans of similar bands and stuff who will discover this.
Basically progressive rock. And it's actually sort of beneficial to suggest this album because I managed to accumulate like quite a lot of background information because like with this sort of like being the band's like debut album, I'll accumulate like history of how the band formed and stuff, and then there's still like 5 tracks on this whole release, but with it being progressive, these songs are quite lengthy.
Yeah, the shortest song's almost touching 7 minutes.
It's the first song to do, which we'll get into. No, sorry, it's the second song. My mistake.
It's the second song. They didn't have the time, I just remembered.
It's, as I was saying, it's the debut studio album from King Crimson, who were a progressive rock band, but they have a tendency to incorporate some genres like jazz fusion, experimental rock, heavy metal, hard rock, and new wave into their work. I think the new wave's like more their latter era.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because they've been afraid, they've been shy to experiment.
They're certainly use a lot of instrumentation and aren't afraid to push the boat out.
Yeah, you see, like when we discussed
it's a bit daring, a bit like Velvet Underground and Nico, although these are more daring than instrumental as opposed to like lyrically. Yeah,
definitely instrumental. It's like we were discussing Dark Side of the Moon. That's why people are saying it's an interesting album because it doesn't look at like more instrumental stuff like other Pink Floyd works, but this one definitely looks at instrumental works.
I would absolutely wholeheartedly agree. There, brother. And there's sort of like 2 record labels this album was released on. So there's Atlantic in the US and
Ireland
in the UK.
And it was released on the 10th of October in 1969.
and it was actually recorded
The band got together in 1968.
in London. Although the three founding members were actually from Dorset. It was Michael Giles on bass, Peter Giles on drums.
Nope.
Sorry, Michael Giles on drums, Peter Giles on bass, and Robert
Peter
Fripp.
Giles?
Peter Giles.
Greg.
And then Robert Fripp on
It's Greg Lake on
guitar.
bass.
Greg, I think that Greg Lake joined late, dude. Actually.
Oh,
so,
right, okay.
Because basically, like in 1968, like the two Giles brothers, Michael Giles and Peter Giles, they basically like put like an advert that like wants to sing a singing organist to join their project, but a guitar player who couldn't sing, known as Robert Fripp, answered the call and he joined the band. So
you don't see him doing vocals.
I'd say like the two Giles brothers are still very lenient on their sort of like criteria for people they were
I think
recruiting.
it's a very good thing that they were lenient.
Because like Robert Fripp's like the only consistent member of King Crimson to this very day. Because
that's why it's carried on going.
As you were saying, dude, it's like King Crimson have had like a revolving lineup of musicians ever since their first incarnation.
Throughout the whole history, they've had 18 musicians and 3 lyricists.
And with the constant like change of musicians, that's like have an impact on their sound, like expand their whole massive sonic palette.
In this album, we have Robert Fripp.
This is recorded the first incarnation of King Crimson.
Robert Fripp on guitars, and they all. We'll talk about the production in a minute. Michael Giles, who was on drums and percussion, Greg Lake on bass and lead vocals, and Ian McDonald, who was a multi-instrumentalist.
He's the most experimental person featured in this band on this album.
Probably the most talented in the band. He played sax, clarinet, flute, mellotron, organ, like pipes and different stuff like that.
Talk about talented.
Yeah.
He was the was he like the main? Yeah, I'm sure Ian McDonald was the main like sort of like musical force behind the band. He came up with most of the music.
I guess so. Yeah, he worked hardest probably on the album.
I think so. And it was because I know like 3 out of the 5 songs, all the band members contributed to the songwriting of them. But Peter Sinfield was the main lyrical sort of person.
I think that was the first, third, and fourth track that everyone.
Because there are 2 songs which are just considered Ian McDonald and Peter Sinfield.
Yeah, I think that's I Talk to the Wind and called Crimson King.
I think what the case do, like basically all the band members like contributed musically to the album. Basically, like Peter Sinfield was responsible for all the lyrics.
Yes, the band didn't.
And illumination production.
Write the lyrics themselves. They've had 3 lyricists. You know, he
was Peter Sinfield the first lyricist for the band as a whole?
Yes.
And like the other 2, like basically they wrote all the lyrics too. I did like other members started triple lyrics like later on in the future.
Later on, because he's on the next album as well. Peter Sinfield. I'm not sure how many.
And Wake of Poseidon,
was
released in 1970.
The album Red, I think he's on.
Red.
Yeah, it's from like 1974 or something.
Not the Burning Red. And that was probably their first hiatus was to do.
It's been described by the Who guitarist Pete Townsend as an uncanny masterpiece. And
although
very highly rated by Rolling Stone magazine,
which was a prominent music magazine which focused on progressive rock a lot, I suppose, brother.
It's still a prominent music magazine today.
I'd agree. I think like there's a dude like I've probably mentioned this before called Robin Fripp who works for Rolling Stone magazine. I think. And basically, like, because like the Giles and Fripp trade actually like recording now, haven't they? Dude, like on like a small independent level.
But no one really noticed it at the time. I don't think.
Keith Moon of the Who actually criticised it. Although Keith Moon was a very complex individual, shall I say?
Controversial figure.
He likes to drive cars into swimming pools because he's so rock and roll like that. But that album, which was called the cheerful insanity of Giles and Fripp, which I thought was an early reference to the 21st century Schizoid man.
Could be,
sort of.
Yeah.
Because there are lots of themes to do with insanity in the sound, especially with the artwork.
The artwork, which was done by a computer programmer in
Barry Godber,
who died a year later of a heart attack.
February 1970. It's like 4 months after the album came out, dude.
Yeah, on the front
is
so young. On the front is the Schizoid man, and in the album artwork, which we see later on, is the Crimson King.
But we still can't find out what.
It said if you cover up the mouth, you can see
an incredible sadness in the eyes.
Which I think I can see in it.
And Robert Fripp has said in an interview, everyone, that basically like it sort of reflects the music, this little sadness, because the whole music just. It's got sort of a very sort of mystique aura, very sort of somber, which reflects a lot in the music.
Yeah, and then the album artwork disappeared for a while, and then Fripp discovered it.
In like the head office at EG Records.
Yeah.
It's basically like the artwork from Barry Godber would have been like exposed to sunlight. Robert Fripp didn't want like the image to get released, basically took it, and now it's his.
Yeah.
He owns the thing.
Same with like some original tapes from this album, because the way this album was recorded is a bit interesting. But like the original tapes, disappeared for...
Wasn't he recording like a monk dude at like Wessex Sound Studios in London?
Wessex Sound Studios in London, yeah. But
on an 8-track.
The original tapes disappeared.
There's only 5 tracks.
Or something, and then...
Very long.
Because this is the original master edition. And so in 2004...
I think it was
2003, it was released in 2004.
They did like a HD CD version of the album, like the original master tapes.
Yeah,
which saw a huge increase like the sound quality of the album. Wasn't like any like excessive hiss.
Yeah, because in the original album, there's
sonically
with recording like 2 heads were aligned together.
There's some pros like the recording heads, like when I think it's like during the mixing stage of the album.
Yeah, and I don't know, it just caused. Like, there's a lot of distortion in the first track which shouldn't be there.
Especially on the vocals. Although was that intentional?
It sounds good.
I think the beginning was...
there's like hiss at the beginning and stuff.
I think that was probably from the tape hiss. Although they get some ambient sounds which probably were intentional, so... Like, they sort of cut the tape hiss out, I suppose, and... Have you actually listened to your physical copy? Is it right?
Yeah, I've listened to it a few times.
Do you still hear the tape hiss on the start of 21st Century Skit Song, man? So they sort of, like, kept it. Because they like added like for an effect or something.
I guess so.
Because I know like for the 40th anniversary edition of this album, I was like 5 tracks on the album, with like bonus tracks, live tracks. Like I think it was like a massive like 5 CD edition which was made in the 40th anniversary
edition. Yeah, which was not remade, but produced with Steve Wilson of Porcupine Tree, another progressive rock.
The more modern day
progressive
rock band. And Stephen Wilson's certainly a very iconic musician in that genre.
Yeah, both his solo material and Porcupine Tree.
See, what I was thinking of is like progressive rock. It's not really like it's more. It is popular, but it's not I don't know.
It's very creative.
It's not as commercially accessible.
No.
That's probably why it isn't as like well known. Cause it's not because people like to eat up all the simple
people
stuff.
Like accessible music. And this album
like a bit of both.
This album was originally going to be produced with Tony Clark, who had been a producer of another progressive rock band called the Moody Blues, who could be seen as perhaps like who embodied progressive rock before.
This album is considered to be like the first embodiment of the progressive rock genre.
It's just arguable if they did it beforehand. But
these sessions failed, and so the band decided to produce the album themselves. Which I'd say was an outright success.
Yeah, it's
apart from although you wouldn't say like the recording has really their fault. It was just like an accidental thing.
Yeah, I was looking at like an album list, and it was showing like where it came in 5th when it first went into the charts. This album, and it was showing like the producers. They had them on themselves, and it obviously like.
I have to admit that way it charted somewhere.
Abbey Road was first, and it also has the specific producer. But then I went a look further down. It had Fleetwood Mac, and apparently they produced an album themselves.
That does sound pretty awesome. But we're kind of big fans of Fleetwood Mac, aren't we?
Yeah, there's plenty of people in that band as well.
Because the females came later on, but if we're reviewing an album, guys, we'll probably get into this. Because I know that Fleetwood Mac were initially like a blues rock band, pretty sure primarily males. And then what's the name now, bless her? Oh, not Stevie Nicks.
Alright, of course, yeah. But then, so they produced it themselves, but it was engineered by a man called Robin Thompson and assisted by a man called Tony Page.
I was going to ask you to mix the album, dude, because...
Yeah.
Was it?
I don't know who mixed it,
You've got engineering information.
Just got engineering information. Also, Ian McDonald worked like overtime, I guess, or just...
overdubbing Mellotron, which is former keyboard.
He worked I'm going to say overtime, but extensively overdubbing keyboard and woodwind and reed instruments.
So basically, like, he was like
orchestral sound.
Was he like alone in the studio doing his thing?
Probably, yeah.
Like, it sort of came into fruition on this album. Which is certainly very much like Trent Reznor, Pretty Hate Machine.
And
that's primarily solo.
Speaking of Trent Reznor and the way he's used instruments, on this album, an instrument called the mellotron is used, which was created in 1963, I think. And the mellotron is
how interesting
is an instrument. It's a polyphonic keyboard, and here you've got like your keys, and then you've got a section where you pull on a magnetic tape.
It reminds me of like the piano strings do for the Velvet Underground in the review.
You pull it across.
Whichever song that was. I can't remember now.
You pull it across a head.
You'll have to remind me.
You get different parts of tape and you pull across it, and here you're able to access different towns and tones, which you won't be able to do anywhere else.
I imagine that'd take quite a bit of patience, dude, to like try to find the perfect sound.
And it really helps the album because it's seen throughout the album in different tracks.
There's also another instance, like from another band everyone called Machine Head, just what I throw them in there. Basically, like the tuning on one of their songs that they did was called Dividion. It's like tune down, drop B, where you like tune up like 40-50%. Like that's very complex and sort of abstract guitar tuning, which managed to find some patience to perfect the perfect sound.
I think bands like the Beatles had used these before, but it's not used as extensively as it is by King Crimson.
Because we were saying, dude, how, like, before I started recording, how like, the Beatles They had experimented because Wet Mouse Psychedelic obviously weren't as progressive as King Crimson.
It's just the Beatles were the most recognisable of like experimentation at the time with Sgt. Pepper.
Would you argue, dude, like King Crimson, like the first instigators of progressive rock in the 1960s? I know it's seen work for like Pink Floyd, but it was Pink Floyd were like
I
different.
mean, there is the Moody Blues and there is Frank Zappa. So I mean, everyone did
that legend.
So,
but I'd say like King Crimson took a lot of their work more seriously because Frank Zappa's like more comedic based.
Well, the music's not though.
It's
not as
more
much, especially the guitar riffs and stuff and solos.
I think Zappa like played guitar sporadically. Although my knowledge of Frank Zappa is very very minimal. You know, like there's a dude called Edward Macon in his 1997 book called Rocking the Classics, which basically, you know, backs up the fact that the album's one named Classic Rock Magazine's 50 albums that built prog. It's basically like a massive instigator of the prog genre, the sound dude.
Indeed.
The original, like, vinyl of the version, well, this song contained 5 tracks. Basically, like, you get 3 tracks on side A of the vinyl and 2 tracks on side B, and it clocks around 45 minutes in length.
Which could be considered short.
In terms of progressive
rock. In terms of today, it's progressive rock. Because, like, they're at least over an hour. Like, you look at Tool albums.
This was a sentiment that's actually echoed by The Needle Drop. I don't know if any of y'all watched it. It's a very popular album review on YouTube. And he was saying, like, no, considered by today's standards, 45 minutes of progressive rock album is pretty short.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, Tool's last 2 efforts of both.
Lateralis is, like, touching a 1 hour 20 mark.
And, yeah, it's like the full brim of a CD.
And then also I think that was intentional. Yeah, Porcupine Tree.
They also have very long progressive rock albums.
I swear Porcupine Tree had like a double album out once. It was one after that came after Fear of a Black Planet.
You know about them more than I do, so...
I've only heard like probably their biggest song, Fear of a Black Planet. I don't know. Now I understand progressive rock more. I'll probably have to check out Porcupine Tree's more other material, because Stephen Wilson does seem like an absolute end of the leg.
Yeah.
Legend, that being, not legend. Because like how you're saying about how the master tapes were found, like, there were several reissues remastered the album from the 80s and 90s.
The tapes were found in like a vault.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and then they were remixed with a 5.1 surround system on an 8-track.
Again, by Stephen Wilson.
Yes.
And I just realised the sun's going to do, so hopefully that won't reflect as much glare on the video.
I didn't even notice. I just thought it got a bit dark when you mentioned it, actually.
This album was actually the initial session held in January early 1969. It's good that they were able to get the album done by October, released in October.
See, they started in 1969. They played their first gig in April, and they first got recognised around July when they played in Hyde Park.
To around 500,000 people. It's a free Rolling Stones concert.
It's a free Rolling Stones concert.
Which was called Stones in the Park.
Stones in the Park in the 60s.
Stones, man. Stones. And special adjustments were made in preparation for the album's first release in the US, went out on Atlantic Records. You know, so it's just like the master tapes have been made for the, you know, they're presumably scrapped out, the original ones being found. You know, but like this album was similar to the Velvet Underground, although it wasn't as like harsh by its initial release. It received mixed reviews. Like this Robert Christgau called it Ersat shit. And
obviously I already said what Pete Townsend thought of it.
But the Rolling Stone, as you mentioned, they were more favourable towards it, calling it a brute force of originality, or something along those lines. I was paraphrasing there, by the way. Yeah, and as you said about the lineup of the album, and how the best issues like production credits, like David Enthoven and John Gayden, like founders of EG Records. However, their names are like removed from the 80s when they like left that company. However, Robert Fripp says they did their rival credits back in '99.
Oh,
Re-release of the album.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. It also includes a part called Mirrors.
I think that's sort of like an instrumental part correctly. The middle of the song, dude, and which is like arguably the most like well-known song that's released. I think it's been like playing on like some adverts before. I'm sure I've heard it on the TV before.
Yeah, this and the last track I said are more well-known tracks on it.
I think it was Rock Band, well. and I'd agree with like the last track because that was released as a single. It was the only official single release from this album. Although I think it was like track 3, Epitaph. It was like released as a single, like along with 21st Century Skits, like man in 1976.
I guess so, yeah.
If my facts are correct.
Could be. Yes.
And as we alluded to earlier on, dude, like about the excessive tape hiss, the song actually opens like sort of like tape hissing, doesn't it? Before I get like the ambient sound like a train like coming in. It's very.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, sort of get my drift on that one. Before I get some wild and crazy saxophone.
Yeah, I've called this track a jazz-to-piece. It's a masterpiece of jazz.
I like how you combine the jazz and the masterpiece there, dude.
So we
start very clever.
we start off with the distorted hiss and we kick in with the jazz because we start off with, at the time I'd say these were very complex drums mixed in with a saxophone and guitar which dominate the track.
The whole sound sounds very foreboding. It's like duh, duh. Where you get like this, because like, you know, instruments like the saxophone and the guitar.
Yeah, when it's kicking with the distorted, distorted vocals.
This sort of caught me on the way that Alan spreads like hard and aggressive, you know. They really, you know, speak volumes. That's what I said there, because like this in the mix basically, like you get like the saxophone and the guitar like playing the same melody, like the saxophone's
in
very
unison, but then as it progresses, the saxophone starts to like go higher.
It goes off of the edge of the world somewhere, dude. It's a quote Bill Ward on a Black Sabbath documentary. Basically, like, you know, the sax is a very dominant instrument in the song, as alluded to, and this song actually makes reference to the Vietnam War, doesn't it, dude?
Oh, right, yeah, some of the lyrics is to do with, like, napalm fire and stuff.
Innocence Raped by Napalm Fire.
Apparently it's all about American politics.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too, because before a show, like, before they played it, like, it's a place called, what's it called? Fillmore West, which was a rock venue in San Francisco owned by a concert promoter in the 1960s called Bill Graham. Like, Robert Fripp basically said, like, he basically dedicates the song to an American political personality whom we all know and love dearly. His name is Spyro Agnew, and Spyro, what a first name there is. Spyro Agnew was basically like the vice president, like, under Richard Nixon, from like 1969 to 1973.
Yeah, that was Nixon's tenure.
So that lasted 4 years.
Well,
I don't know how the American political system works. All those could do like one term.
He won the 72 election, but then was out in 73.
Cause can't American politics like Barack Obama, like, is he on his final term?
Yeah, he only have 2 terms.
So he'll be like boosted out next.
Yeah, you know.
When's the next American election?
2016.
2016. Ours is next year.
So then we get like the jazz starts to speed up, and it gets to this part where like
those aggressive Greg Lake distorted vocals.
Yeah, and then it goes into the fast jazz, and it sounds like the jazz. Then it moves into something where the jazz sounds like it's going back and forth. This song's
structured. I think this song has like 3 times we should do, like, you know, standard 4/4 beat, it gets 6/8, and then it's just all free time, and that's what I was alluding to. It sounds very unstructured, like it's very improvisational. It sounds a bit messy at times, like all the instruments like drowning each other out.
Yeah,
probably just like huge sounding sax.
Later on in the album,
it's very crazy.
And then, you know, we've got a guitar solo, and then we've got some like bass parts, and it just goes into madness after that.
I sort of like I think it's the Mellotron near the middle. It's like playing like a very nice sort of like keys like oriented melody. It's very
very nice. Each instrument does get its own part, which is very recognisable. Because then after like the bass and the guitar, so we get some like drum and bass, which brings back into like the guitar.
Do you know how I was saying how the song like unstructured
scales? Yeah,
that was why it was so hard for me. It's like he taps on the sound like, what the hell's
coming? I thought I'd like look at my notes just to make sure with like all the stuff I've got, and then
it literally blew my brains out.
Then the rising spells, and then it goes quieter after the quick guitar, and then the drums bring it back up, and it goes into a catchy jazz riff, and then
apparently
the original riff.
Apparently, songs have been called like an antithesis for like alternative rock and grunge. Like sonically, this song's been linked to those 2 genres, which obviously saw an explosion of that genre in the 1990s. Bands just like Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, which we've already covered in our previous series on YouTube.
And then the later half of this song, like the outro,
it's just crazy, dude.
It's just like all the jazz is just like collapsing. And what I made it sound like, it was like where the jazz is like it's falling down a flight of stairs, all the instruments falling down a flight of stairs. Then it stops, and it sounds like it's falling.
Dude. Like a very sort of ominous vibe. Like it's cool how I get that like ominous vibe from the music you get from like the music too. But you've got like these cool metaphors in. And I can see I'm not alone with my crazy metaphors then. It seems to rub off on you, brother.
After it stops, it's like falling down another flight of stairs.
And it's like in 3 verses, like the first line of each verse presents 2 relatively vague images, e.g. Iron Claw and Death Seed. The second line is like a single image, and the third line is an actual sentence, and the fourth line is always 21st century. Skid Side Man. I thought that was really cool how the band like put that together in a way.
Oh, okay. Indeed.
Which is the song on Wikipedia was just actually have its own page. All the other songs on the album do have their own page on Wikipedia.
Okay.
This one wants to be different. I don't blame it.
This song's
much more mellow than 21st Century Skits.
It's a lot more
much more structured.
It's a lot more simple. It starts off with the flute. It gives a very fantasy sort of atmospheric. It's like if you'll think of like a fantasy genre film or TV program, it's very like suiting for like maybe a forestry sort of.
Because do you know how I was saying about how like the saxophone like dominates the previous song?
It is now one's got the flute.
Yeah, the flute.
Yeah.
Who plays the flute?
It's Ian McDonald again.
Does Ian McDonald play the sax?
Yeah, he plays both.
So basically, like, Ian McDonald's like the driving musical force behind this whole album, dude.
And then you've got the duo vocals singing together. This
song was actually written by the whole band, dude. It's really just solely by Ian McDonald and Peter Sinfield. And as I was saying, it's basically like much more mellow, and it's you can certainly tell it with like Greg Lake's vocals.
Softer, yeah, very straightforward.
There's no distortion on Greg Lake's vocals,
no.
dude. It reflects the sort of more somber, mellow sort of style of music. It's very nice.
Yeah, and then
very soothing.
Then it breaks.
It was initially my favourite song from this album, you know. But that has systematically changed since, and I shall get into this. And we reveal our favourite songs from this release.
Yeah, and then after that it like breaks into a lovely flute solo. And
he loves the flute solo.
He goes on for quite a bit.
I do too.
And then it brings it back in to the vocals again, and also carries on into a second flute solo, which ends the song.
I actually felt grateful for having to like venture away from Wikipedia for like the lyrical content of this song. It's basically like about a traveller or a shepherd that's like it's like basically like lonely. It's like on the outside looking in. I'm on the outside looking inside. To quote the song.
Yeah, and then
it's basically like oh, got no one to talk to but the wind.
The guitar's less recognisable in this song as well. It's seen
later on. I can't remember any guitar parts of the song.
I've heard it later on. It sounds very bluesy,
especially on a. Especially because there's a lot of there's a lot of classical symphonic elements on this song. That's like just the next song, Epitaph.
More an Epitaph.
Because I think this song as a whole is based around the flute. Because like you were saying, it's more simple, you know, like structure wise, than some of the 21st century skit song. It's basically like a crazy improvisational jam. And ask the opening two tracks, dude. Which one would you say for 21st century skit song? Man, I Talk to the Wind.
Well, it's interesting because they're both different from each other.
Which I think adds to the general diversity of the album. It's similar to Velvet Underground Nickers, like, you know, like even though there's a lot of different forms of instrumentation used, you know, there's not much like diversity throughout the whole songs. Well, there are, but you know, when you put the album together, you know, there are some real elements of diversity throughout it with different, you know, sort of musical stylings, more loud and abrasive, more soft and mellow, almost ethereal, is what Wikipedia described it as.
I just like
an almost sacred feel.
I like them individually just because of how different they are. I just love the jazz in the first one.
This album is to Dark Side of the Moon, dude. It doesn't like see to that all attracts individual. I think I Talk to the Wind actually goes into Epitaph because I can remember hearing the flute from that song at the start of Epitaph.
Yeah, and it's same for Moonchild goes into Court of Crimson King as well later on.
Yeah, it was strange like when I saw the title to Moonchild, I made it like Iron Maiden song from Seventh Son and Seventh Son. The 1988 album.
I just like this one as well, just for its just somber sort of feel with the flute.
It's very much more mellow song. And yeah, the flute really drives it home. I mean, as I was saying, like basically, I Talk to the Wind used to be my favourite song, but then, you know, it's just a decent track. Which is real, because you were saying like you were making a lot of comparisons to Pink Floyd with this release, dude. How basically like, you know, that's kind of what turned on to the album, like basically the whole Pink Floyd influence.
And then it's also got there's certain sections in this song which remind me of Floyd, but it's got
I get a very huge Pink Floyd vibe from this song.
I find this
especially the vocals.
Like this song was a very influential song, I think, for music to come.
And as you were saying, this song contains a lot of classical symphonic elements.
And some
I felt like I was watching a James Bond film.
And then the acoustic guitar, you said, possibly gave influence to tracks like Fade to Black by
Metallica. Yeah, it's sort of like a steely acoustic guitar. It's beautiful.
And
probably my most favourite instrument on this album. But was that played by Robert Fripp?
Yeah, all guitars to Robert Fripp.
So Ian McDonald actually let somebody else do something for a change. Good boy.
He's still busy with his own stuff. He's still busy with the Mellotron. But like, there's two sections in this song as well called "March for No Reason" and "Tomorrow and Tomorrow."
Because I Talk to the Wind, like, you know, sort of driving home like a simple portion of that song. Basically, like a song that doesn't include like any sort of different sections.
It's even though we had the mellow "I Talk to the Wind," then it kicks up with like a very dramatic atmosphere prog with a lot darker vocals, a lot more concentrated vocals.
There's certainly a lot of dramatic moments on this album, dude, and lots of cool little prog stylings.
Like drum cymbals to help kick it off at the beginning.
But there are like the drums are very prominent on this album from Peter. No, what's his name? Who's the drummer? Michael Giles, not Peter Giles. He left because the band wants to go in a different direction musically. You know, there are a lot of it's like a lot of like the drums really do stand out throughout this album. The songs.
Then the vocals stand out more in this song because obviously there's a lot more vocals in this song.
It gives Greg Lake's vocals a good time to shine.
Yeah, and
like
more,
Bill Sherrick can do.
And the more that vocals come back, the more louder and more dominant they seem when he's going back and forth into the chorus.
It seems like Greg Lake's like vocal styles like don't fall on the music base, like does his own thing.
Perhaps.
But I think like in the mix, like production wise, so all the instruments are pretty even. Was not like one instrument dominating this song.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, and there's also some more flute elements as well later on in the song, as well as the mellotron.
The band loves the flute, dude. The thing is, dude, they like the mellotron. Like I couldn't really hear which parts of the mellotron, like because I'd not really listened to much mellotron-based stuff. This is actually like the first time it's featured mellotron I've really heard prominently.
And then we've also got like there's some other keys at the end. I've got. Well, I thought there was some more synth in the background, but that could have been the mellotron. But then like, later on there's like some deep piano chords being played.
I think that's towards the end, right? You were saying also like Claps of Thunder, which I'd say reminded me of a 2006 Tool song called Wings Marie.
Yeah, and so then like there's some cymbals which help build up the drums more near the end, and more synth builds up near the end.
Greg Lake, who would later lead the band in 97, so like basically it like used an excerpt from this song in a live song by his band Emerson, Lake and Palmer called Tarkus.
He plays this one live.
An Epitaph Records also got their name for this song as well, dude. So I think that's really cool. Really cool. Epitaph being an American independent record label owned by the American punk rock band Bad Religion and their guitar player Brett Gurewitz.
Right. And they have bands which I guess pop punk, and they have some like metal stuff.
This was a song that sided with the double A side of In the Course of 21st Century Schizoid Band, the 1976 single.
Oh right, I didn't know that.
It's also Epitaph's also the final track on side A of the original Violation, because this is actually the longest track on the first 3 songs. It's like 9 minutes. I was 8 minutes. 8 minutes, sorry. This 21st is 7. I thought it was about 6, and it's about 8.
Yeah, and then Moonchild's 12.
It's certainly Moonchild is certainly the very most progressive song of the album. Well, in terms of length, we'll get into
it now. It's also got sections called The Dream and The Illusion.
And The Dream is a very mellotron-driven ballad, but I really like how like the guitars and the vocals in this part of the song really sounded like...
Yeah, the vocals...
Robert Fripp and Greg Lake still make a great combination at the start of the song.
There's definitely some effects on the vocals on this one. I can't tell. I don't think it's distortion, but there's definitely some effects.
It's like an echoed style.
And yeah, the guitars and vocals are like for the first half are very in unison.
And I really enjoyed that part, really. I really enjoyed that part.
My idea with this one at first was like you were travelling down a river very slowly, and like perhaps there was like trees from a forest on either side.
We're having like a moment of reflection.
And then the song was telling you about what you were seeing around you. But
especially like the sun for like the trees like shine on the lake. It's like this dude like a straw hat riding the boat with his oars.
But then with the later half of his song, because I mean even with the name Moonchild, I get a more like space atmospheric feel for it when he just breaks into the instruments.
That is definitely true, bro. Because like the Dream, everyone, like the first part of the song, it lasts like 2.5 minutes before you get into the second section, which is called The Illusion, which lasts like the rest of the song. As you said, it's like an improvisational jam. It's actually called a space jam.
Yeah.
Reference that movie, dude.
I'll put the song in. Then we get.
You said Looney Tunes.
Yeah, it's the 1996 Looney Tunes film. I think with Michael Jordan. And
I alluded to Michael Jordan in the STP review.
And so like this song later on,
you're wrestling Danny Carey's basketball jerseys.
Oh right, Danny Carey's basketball jerseys.
When he's drumming.
Oh right, he wears. Oh okay, yeah. And
you got to have these little links in there, dude.
Okay. You get like a lot of mellotron dominance later on. You know, just because it's got just little sections of instruments. There's nothing really major.
I believe
small, just calming.
I believe it. Like a section of this improvisational part actually comes a bit from a show tune from 1943 called Oklahoma, which was a Rodgers and Hammerstein theatrical musical.
Okay.
But basically, like similar to what like Led Zeppelin did on How Many More Times, that basically incorporates like Lies from Rosie, Won't You Please Come Home by The Who, by the Kings, one of those two. And yeah, this was this actually remastered by Steve Wilson. However, that part was like cut out and basically like put it as like a bonus track on the 45th anniversary 2009 edition.
Cool.
I guess that's up to opinion. Stephen Wilson should have done that. But at least as a bonus track. This song, it contains a unique drumming pattern. This song as well, dude. Like as I alluded to, like the sort of cool little drum rolls that Michael Giles does throughout this release.
Yeah, mixing out with the mellotron.
It's been praised by music critics and writers, that part. Yeah, it's basically like it's actually the Dream, the first part.
Yes.
It sent shivers down my spine. It was so good. like the arms on my head, the arms on the back of my neck, like stood an end.
Personally, this isn't one of my favourite tracks on the album. It's probably my least favourite.
I'd agree. Like when I heard the song, I found it a bit boring, but then when I really started to understand what it was, I started to really enjoy it more. Because I listened to this album in full, it really fitted in like well with the flow of the album.
Yeah.
This album flows well despite having lots of diverse to different forms of instrumentation and everything. Alluding back to Moonchild sort of temporarily, like it's the longest song on the album, clocking 12 minutes, and then Cause Crim sings about 9 minutes.
This track has also 2 sections: the Return of the Fire Witch
and the Dance of the Puppets.
The Dance of the Puppets.
And this is also another McDonald and Sinfield composition, wasn't it?
Indeed. This is also a more striking number on the album. Very accessible, recognisable.
It's the second song. It's the second longest song on the album. So clocking in about 9 minutes. Like it's actually released as a single, wasn't it? The only single released on this album.
Yeah, in the same year as the album release.
It charts at number 80 on the Billboard Top Hot 100 Singles chart in the US.
Beggars can't be choosers.
It was like we're saying they were like King Crimson. You know, they don't perform very well commercially. I think this is like their only single that charts in the US part of a song called Heartbeat, which was released on an album there. It's called 1982, an album called Beat.
They weren't as recognisable.
But they have a huge following despite not really having much commercial success or exposure.
Yeah, and so this song kicks in with a combination of synth.
This has classic symphonical elements in, dude.
Indeed. And it's
like I'm watching a James Bond movie again.
I guess it could be seen as the heaviest on the album. If you ignore the distorted vocals, it's definitely more dominant with its music.
There's diversity of the vocals, like the whole gang sort of. It's very sort of.
Yeah, this is what makes the song more noticeable as well. It's just it's like if you think of tracks like Brain Damage.
I was gonna say you referenced Brain Damage by Pink Floyd. The similarities.
It's got 4 sections of vocals, I believe, and on the last line when he says,
that's 4 verses too.
Yeah, that's what I meant. He says in the court of crimson, and then when he says king, the vocals all come up, and then it goes into some R's, and which also return, which helps carry and prolong the song.
It's certainly very sort of like, very
it's very fantasy, I find as well, and it's got like I feel like it's got
it sounds huge
with the like regular vocal. It's got like a battle theme, I think.
I can still imagine this like song you play like a Halo or Call of Duty game, like maybe like
I don't want to say Call of Duty.
Halo's way better.
But I won't say any of those games. I'd say, well, I guess you'd have to pick more like Elder Scrolls games.
It could be used like a victorious moment.
Elder Scrolls.
Is Elder Scrolls a PC game, dude?
No, Elder Scrolls is Skyrim and Oblivion.
Oh yeah, that's a fit right in place, and that's very just grandiose.
More fantasy games, not like.
I think it's the whole gang vocals, like singing the chords of Crimson King, that really sort of giving that like fantasy sort of vibe.
It's very surround sound.
It's very panoramic. It goes around the room. Where have I heard that before?
Panoramic is a word.
On the Run by Pink Floyd.
Yes,
about the first review of this series back when it went like 4 weeks ago, like a month. Holy moly! And as you're saying, dude, you were saying this is arguably your favourite song on the album.
I think it's a very nice way to close off the album. It suits the album down to a T.
It's very, like you say, that sort of fantasy feel, like classic symphonic elements.
Yeah,
and the whole gang vocals.
That's not the whole thing, but I mean, there's like elements of flute, there's elements of like I couldn't tell if it was either the keys or the kind of like just tapping.
Like the drums or the guitars too.
And then
I should have done more acoustic steel with guitar.
The bass goes back to the vocals, and then finishes with some cymbals and a guitar strum.
Tons of diversity with like the steel guitars,
all the elements,
flutes, the saxophones,
all the instruments are playing in this one, because then it cuts to the acoustic guitar again, which later fades up for a little break, and then it comes back in.
We all gotta take a break, have a Kit Kat.
Product placement once more, and so it comes back in, which I felt was like it sounded like a whistle, but it could have been an organ or a harpsichord. It probably was a harpsichord. And
I saw these instruments like Ian McDonald was playing. I'm like, what the hell do they sound like?
And then like the mellotron also sticks out, and the drums kick back in, and it closes off with like what's playing during the R's.
Because basically what I gotta do, like towards the end, like it remains a relatively simple song, like the end section, so like makes it in much more of a progressive nature. Because King Crimson actually don't like to do things in a much more simple manner. They like to keep things very progressive, very anti-commercial.
It's a good attitude to have.
It's basically like them on letters, other people like it, that's cool, they don't, and that's just one of those things.
It's also, they don't like to keep things simple. It's like if it's simple, it's not going to be on the album.
If it's too commercial, it ain't gonna work. Like, I know there made reference to this American recording company, I think, whichever it was. But basically, yeah, like they weren't fans of pop music. When I say pop music, I mean popular music. So it's very like the roots like because like on the first Jazz Fripp release back in the day, it was sort of there were a bit of pop tendencies in there. But King Crimson totally blew that out of the water.
It's the same thing.
Oh well, let's just do this.
In order to not be like too over the top, we've given
a nice 9 out of 10
we're giving it a P. It says on the camera. We're giving it a P. We're giving it a 9 out of 10 because I feel like it's a very important album, especially
exceptional. I've written down for this.
I think it's very important. I think it stands out a lot, and it would have been. I can tell it's influenced a lot of music today, and it should be a highly recognisable album. People shouldn't just think of Pink Floyd because there was many. Because this is before Dark Side of the Moon by 4 years. So.
The service of very beautiful melodies exhibited throughout. I could especially say like the Dark Side of the Moon could have been influenced by In the Course of the Crimson King.
And see, people should be overlooking all these bands.
With all like the forms, different instrumentation, vocal styles, just like a general diversity of the album, but it flows really well. It's not too OTT. Quite similar to what we did with our cards, and I think 9 out of 10 is a great score. And I'm very happy I was able to turn you on to some new music, my really.
So that was In the Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson. And here we are again. Here's the album. Here is the Schizoid Man.
For like the second week
this is like the ear
of the
Schizoid Man. Got the track listing at the back, and here it says like what edition it is. And
original
got
master edition.
These are the
tapes we found in 2003.
The CD is pink. Interesting there. And
I tried
band members and some like recognition.
Going to like get this album like in time for this review. So I basically did like pretty like a crude and did like a bit of crudy colouring.
Don't underestimate.
But you don't want to see that, everyone.
It's not that.
Praise Amazon.
And
Amazon is God.
So there's the and there. And so
have you
got some like
booklet before, dude?
I have indeed. It's like different news stories and stuff from Rolling Stone talking about the band. It's got pictures of the band and like letters from Atlantic Records, stuff like that.
Those Black Sabbath issues I have, but basically give like a massive like summary of the album.
You see,
all its praise and accolades.
We've got all the lyrics on this side, and on this side is the artwork for the In the Court of the Crimson King.
Where's the Crimson King, dude? I can see it here.
This is him. This is the Crimson King.
Dude. That's the Moon Child.
Yeah, it's the Crimson King.
Moon Child.
And so
it's on the album.
Here we go. There's more artwork. Here's Barry Goodman with the original artwork for this album. Yeah, it's there.
Oh yeah.
And then we've got like
behind that iconic
where they came in the charts and stuff, and more pictures, and then obviously the end of the album.
And here we go once again. Do next. Remember that we look at most that awesome new series where we sort of pick out the house how we will be covering in next week's episode. And
the sun is shining. That seems prosperous.
Hopefully, this will be quite a fruititious exercise of that evening.
Indeed. So last week pulled out an interesting number, which has turned out to be one of my favourite albums.
And it was chosen by himself. So let's think it's Matt who wants to do. So would you like to cover my spectacle eyeballs whilst I do this? Oh my word!
This could be an interesting album.
As we all know, we all know how much I love doing this, and I'm gonna pull out a good album, dude. I'm gonna pull out a good album this week. I'm gonna pull out a good album. I have one, dude. I have one.
Okay. Reveal it to me. So next week we shall be covering. Oh, very interesting.
Wow.
That's a good album. Very good album.
This should be a very sort of a range that we've not really. Although everything we've ranged not good so far. So. Wow.
I'm a big fan of his, so should be good.
Wow. I'm looking forward to this, everyone. So until next time, I've been Jonny Middleton.
And I've been Travis Ward.
Thank you for watching our video. So until then, stay safe, stay strong, and we shall see you all in the future forever. Peace and much love. Y'all know it.